This really is the year to end all franchises. We had Avengers Endgame earlier this year that really wrapped up the MCU in such a beautiful way. We had Game of Thrones Season 8 that wrapped up Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is now over. And also later this year, we have Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, to end off the Skywalker trilogy and really the entire Skywalker saga that they've been doing for the past, 40, 50 years. So this has really been the year to end all franchises. And this is also the year to end the X-Men Fox franchise with X-Men Dark Phoenix. If you look at my channel, I really do try to focus on the positivity of movies. I usually only see the movies that I hear as great or that I'm really looking forward to, and I haven't had too many negative reviews on my channel, and maybe it's time for more of them. I was maybe going to see Secret Life of Pets because I hate the first movie, but instead I saw Dark Phoenix. And let me tell you, this is going to be a more negative review, unfortunately. But I do want to stick with the positives, because if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes and you see that score, this movie is not as bad as you may think. Now, what I loved about this movie is, yes, we see a bunch of superhero movies, and there's a lot of things getting thrown around on the internet, like superhero fatigue. And honestly, this movie really feels different in terms of the power use. We've lived in the MCU for 11 years now. We've seen that power set, and we haven't had an X-Men movie in a while, and it's nice to see these different powers on screen, because the X-Men are really such great characters and such great powers and unique abilities that it's just so fun to watch on screen. Like Storm and Quicksilver, of course, who is fantastic in all the other X-Men movies. You get to see some more mind control, Professor X and Magneto and all this stuff, and it's really cool seeing these abilities that we usually don't get to see on screen. And of course, there is the cast of this movie, which I think is fantastic. They really nailed the casting for the X-Men Fox universe with James McAvoy as XAVIER. We have Michael Fassbender as Magneto, who is fantastic in all the movies, and of course, Jennifer Lawrence, who's kind of went downhill. She's kind of phoning in at this point. And Sophie Turner, of course, as Jean Grey, who I think is a fairly good choice. And I think they really could have done a lot for her, but unfortunately, this movie just does not do it. And when they rebooted the X-Men franchise with X-Men First Class, that's really when I started getting into these movies. Because I wasn't the biggest fan, or at least I didn't watch the original trilogy when they came out on its own. The first one I think I watched was X-Men Origins, which is not a good one to start off with. But I love First Class, and I love this new cast, like I said. And I've really been invested into only a few characters in this franchise, which most of them are not in this movie. We have James McAvoy and Fassbender, of course, which I'm really invested in those characters. But this movie is really focused on the younger cast, mainly Jean Grey, and who she's really only been in one movie before with X-Men Apocalypse, and she had really not much to do at all in that movie. And so this movie kind of focuses on those characters and expects you to really care about them when we haven't had the development that we need to get this story and this Dark Phoenix saga storyline done correctly. And the movie is called Dark Phoenix, so focus on Dark Phoenix. This movie is not X-Men Dark Phoenix, Focus on Jean Grey and her storyline and her character and just go nuts with that. And that would be the more interesting movie. And they do some of it, but they just don't get into that storyline enough. The main reason is probably the side story with Jessica Chastain, who is a fantastic actress, but she is completely wasted in this movie. I didn't understand, her motives, her character. I didn't know who she was or what she was or why she was doing the things she was doing, and it was really frustrating as I was watching the movie, which reminded me a little bit of Godzilla, where they threw in some villain characters that you just didn't need when you have your main character, dealing with a good or bad situation. She is the villain of the movie. Focus on that instead of having these other random characters that we don't care about in the background. And what I think is the worst part of this movie by far is that this movie is completely joyless. They have no fun in this movie like they did in the past, which is really frustrating when you look at like X-Men First Class, right, for instance, and you have that scene where they're all thrown together in the facility and they're coming up with the superhero names and all this stuff, and it's a really fun scene. And you go to X-Men Days of Future Past, that movie is just bonkers and a lot of fun, and of course you have the Quicksilver scene, and even in Apocalypse you have stuff like that as well. In this movie there is none of that. It is completely like it's Dark Phoenix. It's really dark and dull, and it just has no joy in it at all like X-Men movies have had in the past. And you can't go without mentioning the Disney and Fox merger deal that's going on right now that has completed and has finalized, and we know this is the last of the X-Men franchise. It's probably not the foot that they wanted to end off on, but it is the last. We all know that the X-Men are going over to Disney. They're going to completely reboot it. So that also adds on to the fact that we just don't care anymore, because we know that it's not going to be around after that 2-hour runtime. And it definitely is not fair to knock down the movie because of this, but it really just feels like, just listening to the audience as we're watching the movie and the fact that it's not going to do too well opening weekend, just because our theater was actually pretty empty, which is sad, but it's just, I feel bad for the movie because it's not the movie's fault. Like I said in my tweet, the movie's fine. You know, it's not bad in any way. All the performances are solid besides Jennifer Lawrence, but you know, the movie itself, just that's not the problem. I think the problem is more the perception, the reviews, and just the fact that we just don't care anymore. So what do I take away from this movie? I take away that these abilities and these characters are really fascinating. I really want to see more with them. It's just this is not the movie that does it, which is really unfortunate because of how much I love X-Men First Class and Days of Future Past. I thought they really revitalized this franchise, but unfortunately, I think we're going to have to wait till Marvel gets their hands on them, maybe does something amazing with these characters, or maybe they fail just the same. But yeah, guys, that is what I took away from X-Men Dark Phoenix, or just Dark Phoenix. It doesn't matter at this point. We just stopped caring as a community, as movie fandom, as superhero fans, and that is really unfortunate for this movie because I think it could have been a lot better. Make sure you guys like, comment below what you thought of the movie, and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one, as well as a commentary series, which I will be starting soon, despite how many times I've said it and how many times we've not done it. We will be doing the commentary series, so that'll be it. Thanks, guys, and I hope to see you all in my next review.